intended. You're getting married this
All right, welcome to the May 2nd, 2023 hearing of the Town of Lyman Zoning Board of Appeals. My name's Tom Learned, Chair. Members of the board from my left. We got Russ Fearon, Russ Outhus, Bert Sabanik, Art Dumas, and Kelly Stevens is our alternate. She's not here tonight. Julie Lemieux is our recorder clerk, and Brenda Charlin, code enforcement officer. We've got contractor and Linda's here, so we're all set. Hearing will come to order. It's a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that's being said and to look at all the exhibits that are offered. Please notify me if you're unable to hear or see. At this time, please silence all cell phones or any other noise-making devices. The board works from a prepared agenda. We'll be considering the application for a variance by Linda Bissett, 130 Unganut Pond Road. The burden of proof is upon the applicant to demonstrate satisfaction of the four requirements to obtain a variance. After the board votes on the merits of the application, it will prepare a written opinion. Appeals from adverse decisions must be filed with Superior Court within 45 days of the board's decision. Also, to be certain that you preserve your individual right to file any such appeal, you must be certain that the board's record evidences your appearance this evening. That would primarily apply to any abutters. And I don't know how you do that. Do that online. Can they, if they're attending online, can they still appeal?
It has to be a Zoom meeting.
Okay. Please record your attendance on the sign-in sheet. Again, remember, this is a public proceeding. You have the right to hear and see what is happening. All persons speaking will be asked to first state their name and address or affiliation. First of all, we do have a quorum tonight, full board this evening with 5 voting members. Quick summary of the application. The applicant contracted to have a building constructed at the site. The plans were approved by the code enforcement officer, and then somehow the building ended up being misplaced too close to the private road. Do any of the board members have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the subject matters of the application?
No.
Okay. After the preliminary business meets the satisfaction of the board, it can proceed with substantive review, first with a presentation by the applicant and your attorney and witnesses without interruption. It's all yours, Linda.
So I've moved up here, and this is my primary residence. And in building the house, I contracted with Steve Howard, and it was that I needed to get a small mortgage, and that's when we discovered there was this issue with the boundary. And after talking with the gentleman here, Livingston Hughes, who did the survey, because I kept measuring, and I know, so did my contractor, and I'm like, I just don't understand this. And I guess the actual road is not what is on the plan. So the plan has a road, but what we actually drive it on is different. So that's where I think some of the confusion came in. There's also, close to my house, if you go down towards the back, it's a really pretty like estuary. And I think I'm pretty sure it's conservation land, so I didn't want to get too close to that either. And then there is, I think the Lyman Snowmobile Club has a trail through it, which I didn't want to. They're very good. They're very quiet. They don't bother me. So this was like the best location to put the house. I think we both felt that the boundary was the road and not something that's on the plan. It was just, I can tell you this has totally wrecked me because I have worked in the legal field and I'm devastated over this. I know it's not 10 feet or 5 feet. It's a lot. And it's, falling on, it was just it's been very devastating for me just as a person who has tried really hard to be a citizen and a law-abiding citizen, and knowing that something like this can mar my title, which is another whole can of worms. As of right now, I don't have good title. So that's why I'm here for the variance.
Okay. We'll come back to questions later. Let's have a presentation by code enforcement.
And really, I don't have much to add to what Linda said, but I think we all know that on most of these private roads in town, the traveled way is not the deeded way. It just over time it moves. And I think oftentimes property owners assume that's the road. It's unfortunate, but it happens.
Okay. Questions? Any questions right off for either Linda or code enforcement on the issue? Yes, Bert, I can tell you were ready, ready to jump right in there.
Well, certain questions do come to mind. The survey, there was no survey before you started building. There was no layout of the lot, there were corners and
That's the thing. There was, but I guess they were not accurate. If you drive down that whole road, in fact, when this is all resolved, because I really like this company, I want to call them and say, I want you to put stakes and I want to flag them. I had 25 acres in Granby, Massachusetts. I used to walk my property all the time to find my stakes and make sure they were where they were supposed to be. There are flags there, they're not right. I don't know who put them, but they're wrong. I mean, because I do believe this gentleman is right. I believe he's correct, but I just don't know how it happened. I have no idea.
so the traveled way is 75 feet from your house, but on the paper, it's 53 feet.
Yes, that is correct.
But the actual traveled way
is even farther than that. Yes, that's correct. And that's why it throws me a little bit, because on the other side of this traveled way, there's a lot of water. It's a watery area. I mean, I'm sure you folks know where it is, right near the campground there. And it's, that's why I talked with a couple of the people who've been there longer, and they're like, this was an old Jeep road, and it's, they had to move it as the water moves things. In fact, there's somebody else now who's building on the Maricot, I think, road, which is next to 9 or Maricot. And his building's disrupted some water that's now, I'm like, oh my gosh, the road's gonna move again. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this. But they said that's probably how this happened. It's just, I don't know who did the road originally. I have no idea. That I don't know. But there were flags there. They're just not, and I don't know who put them in. Nobody seems to know, but they're definitely not accurate, which makes me now a little more comfortable in that I want this company to come up and do a right survey so I know where all my pins are.
Stephen, you have a question or comment?
On the traveled way on that road, it varies in the right of way. Up the next lot up on the opposite side, the lot line is this far from the traveled way, as opposed. So it's hard to tell, it's really vague, and I think part of the traveled way by your house is actually on the property across the street, so it's really, deceiving when you do that. When we laid the house out, we used the road and the pin, and we were very careful to stay away from the sidelines, and we also wanted to stay away from the walking trail and the snowmobile trail, because, that's been there for years, and Linda didn't want to upset that, or because it was always there. The people use it all the time, still, everybody uses it, and and then there's wetlands too. But I don't know what happened when the lot was cleared, some of the stakes got moved, but we had no intention of having that in the setback. And we've even put the driveway longer so it would be down around the corner, so we'd have a good sight line from both ways. And also we left trees so that the house is not, right road. It's gonna be, we just wanna get in and finish the landscaping and do everything else. And there was no intention ever to put it close to the road. I don't know how it happened, We didn't intend to do that. But it's a severe hardship for her now because the bank won't touch it.
So there's, another question is, the wastewater, the leach bed is towards the road on that side of the house.
It's close to the,
How close now, it was supposed to, it was supposed to be 10 feet from the edge of the road.
it's probably right on the,
From
Is it inside the right of way?
No.
No.
No, it's definitely
it
not,
did-
no,
didn't-
it's closer to my
It didn't creep into the
house.
right of way.
No, it's not in the right of way, it's very close to my house. It's a small little house, because that's another thing I was worried about, was I've been out there with pin rulers and with long tapes and everything, making sure that I didn't have to move that.
Then the last question I have right now is, who did the footing inspection?
I don't know.
The concrete footings, who inspected the
I don't
concrete
know.
footings?
I think
That would be, yes.
Did you measure to,
How I approach that, if the property owner is building very close to the lot line, especially down in shoreland in those areas, then I do require, it's right on the permit, that I require that we have a certified plot plan and that the foundation be pinned at the footing inspection. If they have plenty of room, then I don't. There was no reason to look at this and think that there was a problem, so I didn't require it.
Art? I'm sure you got some legal questions.
I don't know about legal, but
Yes,
well, I guess one of my
hold on a
concerns.
second, Art. I think Stephen's got something else to add here before we,
No, just, I've done hundreds of houses and I've never ever encroached on a setback before. And in Waterboro, I've done a lot there with Glenn Charette, you all know Glenn, he's really tough. And we always did, a foundation certification, and I would do it when the footings were set, and we never have a problem. And it's a very simple thing, and there's a guy right in Waterboro, retired surveyor, very, very good, Steve Everett. And it's, it might be something to consider, in the future. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it would save you and us for a lot of this.
Okay, some of my concerns, just listening to you, Linda, is, first of all, it states on the mortgage inspection that the monuments found did not conflict with the deed description.
There are flags, though. There are these flags that go up and down the road, so I'm at a loss, because I've been measuring from the flags that I see, that I didn't put there. They're all over up and down that road, and that's where I don't know, I've asked my neighbors who put these flags up, and nobody knows. Oh, when they surveyed, when I cut up the parcels, they did the flags. So I don't know.
Who said
them.
that?
My neighbors are saying that, because I said, they've been there since I bought the property. I've owned it for like a year before I decided to build.
One of the requirements of the subsurface wastewater disposal system was that you confirm the edge of the road. It sounds to me like you didn't confirm the edge of the road.
I did the actual road, sir. I did not do the boundary. That was,
Have you, do you know the person who owns the property on the other side of the road?
I do not.
Have you made any attempts to find out who that is?
I think he's, from what I understand, he goes away in the winter, and I believe he's back now. He doesn't live, I think he lives from what I've been told, I haven't gone to, I've seen on his property. He lives like on the other side of there's like, the pond comes around and there's like a little, I don't know if it's a cove, and I think he lives on the other side of the cove.
Well, the reason I am inquiring about this is one possibility would be for you to purchase some of his property to
Correct the title.
move the right-of-way.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you have a full basement in your place?
Yes, I do.
Have you looked into how much it would cost to move the house?
No, I haven't.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Why is it almost impossible? Houses used to be moved all the time.
I mean, you'd have to move the house, then relocate the foundation, and then put it on the new foundation. Be expensive.
Would double
More
the
than
price.
she's already paid for the house. Before we do that, you know, we would do something at the house. And I don't want to even consider that. I mean, 'cause nobody wins.
Moving the right of ways,
Right away.
it might be a cheaper way to go if, you know, if you can get the consent of the person that owns that property, that the right of way, that the road is on now. And just change the right of way to there.
So if there's not a lot of interest in the right of way, you know, a lot of other people that'd be affected, and it's just the people on the other side of the road,
There's somebody else who
they
lives
might
in
be
the back.
sympathetic and,
Everybody on the road they love the house and they love the walk, to walk their dog.
Yeah.
And if there was anybody on the road that was offended, they would be here tonight, I would think.
right, yeah, this isn't a neighbor's
And
complaint.
she's trying to be a good neighbor to everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, that counts for something. And should not have happened. It was a mistake. And, you know, there's a limit to how much you can penalize somebody for making an honest mistake.
Well, I think Art's point is you could make the deeded right of way match the physical
The road where it is
road
now.
where the road is
That you
now, you
basically
know,
measured from,
it'd be easier to align the paper than it would be to move the house.
I don't know how you do that.
You would have to move the right of way over onto the neighbor across the street's land, which it already apparently is.
Well, we don't even know where the right of way is on that corner. I
Well,
mean,
you
this
do, according to this mortgage
is
inspection,
very vague.
Yeah.
And if you walk down that road and you look at this, the telephone pole is in the center of the right of way. But it's not. And it's, you know, it is so vague.
Somewhere, somebody described that right of way and somebody else built
Built the road.
the road, and the two of them didn't confer.
And there's
I
no
think
way
it
you
was
can,
Probably, it was a woods road.
Woods
You
Road, it
can't
would
build
start a
it.
logging road.
Easy to support.
you can't build at the end of that road. I mean, if it was like an outlet or something, I would say that we definitely should do something, but there's, the lake is right there. There's Gil's house is at the very end. He bought it from Lafreniere and there's nothing there. There's no more lots to be. In fact, the person who lives on the other side can't build over there because it's all wet. I don't even know if I could actually, I just,
I think the thing would be that you would align,
The paper road with the existing road.
couldn't I just get an easement or somewhat instead of trying to, I mean, is that what you're, instead of, I mean, my funds right now, I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm doing this on my own.
I don't think you understand my point, which
No, I do. I do. I understand that.
the road right now is where you want it to be.
Right.
So it's not a matter of changing the road. It's a matter of the owner on the other side of the road
Right.
agreeing to
Having the road.
change the easement so that you got enough width in the easement so that you've got 75 feet and presumably then 10 feet.
I know.
it
To
would
the leach
become
pad.
conforming.
But he could say no.
Well,
Brenda?
Or he could ask me for compensation, and this is really a really tough, which is why I went to the bank, so I could finish my house, and right now I don't have marketable title. I'm stuck, I can't do anything.
But he could say, well, the road's all there already and I never even knew it, so why not? I mean,
Brenda, a comment?
Well, when this first came to my attention, my first reaction was, there's a telephone pole right there. I mean, it's right there. And where we think the edge of the road is. So I couldn't understand how that could happen. And it seems to me if you're moving these, then the pole's gonna have to move, I would expect.
Well, I don't think they're proposing moving anything. They're just saying, let's just get the survey to move over and say, that is where the road is. Let's call that the road.
I'm quite certain, I am a lawyer, I do some real estate work. I don't want you to consider this a legal opinion, though. I'm relatively comfortable that if the owner of the land on the other side of the road is willing to change the location of the easement to conform with the road, it wouldn't be any different to him.
Right, it's costing him nothing. I mean, essentially, it's,
I mean, that doesn't mean that he wouldn't want some remuneration, and frankly, he probably would deserve it because
Yeah.
you're getting the use of more land than you own.
it's on his land.
and you would increase the size of your holding. But the other thing is, he probably never knew that somebody built a road on his property.
It's true. Brenda, you had another comment?
Well, I knew, and it would just seem to me that because of the nature of that whole neighborhood, there isn't going to be a lot of more building down there, there's just no way. It's very rural, it's a dirt road, not really easy to navigate some days, I know that in the spring. But, and your ordinance does allow for you to consider approving the mislocation of the building. And I just, in my mind, that would be the easiest and the quickest way to do it. And I was just wondering if you have dealt with this kind of an issue in the past, do you recall?
We've dealt with variances, not necessarily with a mislocated brand-new building being put in the wrong spot. Haven't dealt with that particular one yet.
Could you
Russ, do have a
point
question?
Yeah,
to the
what is the
page where it
detriment?
talks about the mislocation of the
I
building?
second.
can.
Because I do know a number of towns do have that,
Yes.
but I,
It is, and we gave you a brand new ordinance, that's the newest. It would be on page 37 of the 80 pages, and it's, section 9.2.9D. D is in dog.
well, the first thing that it states on there is that the violation is not due to new construction. So how could this apply to that?
And I did inquire with some of my resources, what does that mean? And they felt that that would mean if she brought in an application and said, I'd like a waiver because I want to build my house somewhere else, that's the new construction. This has already been built, it already has a condition, certificate of occupancy. It really isn't new construction, so they felt like that pertained to prior to the construction.
And where did you get that from? Who gave you that advice?
I just asked other
I got it
code
from,
enforcement officers.
I got it from this company. They were the ones who directed me to this, and the David Hughes surveyors, Livingston Hughes.
Well, what is the detriment to the neighborhood if this gets approved?
Not my neighborhood.
Is
Well,
it,
It is, but
there's nobody complaining.
No, they're all actually really, they were all waving to me tonight when I pulled out.
Everybody on the board is, you know, they're friendly, and we did everything to maintain the roadway. We even plowed the snow out. And she's gone overboard to try and be friends with everybody on the road. Everybody loves the house, and it's just, nobody has a problem with anything. But, I mean, this is an undue hardship on her. I mean, we're talking, to do what you were talking about, we're talking $200,000.
Oh,
And that's just something she can't afford. I mean, she's a single woman, and she wants to live up here, and she's got a dog too. She likes to, be able to walk her dog. And
So-
we've made friends with all the neighbors there. Even the guy right up the end of the street, he's a good guy once you get to know him, but, and we never intended to do anything that was infringing the right of way. But this right here, this is not accurate. This is nowhere near accurate. If you go down and you just look at the lot and look at the corners, this is nowhere near accurate. I mean, that 53 feet, I figured it's closer to 70 feet. We may be over a little, but it's not 53.
Geez, the guy was willing to stamp it.
And, it just, to get a variance for her, we pay a fine if we had to, that's not a problem. We shouldn't have had a surveyor come in or something like that. But, we had a number of inspections, and, we thought we were all right, but obviously we weren't.
See,
But it's an undue hardship for her. I mean, it's me too, because I'm gonna be paying for it.
Can I ask the videographer a question? Did you notify the person on the other side of the street of this request for a
All
variance?
of the
Yes.
letters were sent certified letters. We received 2 or 3 responses via phone. I know I got an email from one of them, I can't remember the exact names. All they asked was, how does this affect my piece of property? I explained the situation, and they said, oh, okay.
I mean, the only person I'm concerned about is the person on the other side of the road.
I don't know if she is somebody that responded to me or not. I'm not familiar with the exact location of all the people.
how many people are past you on the right of way? Right of way dead ends?
One.
Just one?
Gil, and Gil's,
The only
he's,
big problem would be is if someday he said, I want to improve the right of way. Whatever reason, I want to improve to the fullest extent my access to my property. And he says, I'm going to have the surveyor come and lay out the actual right of way, and I'm going to build that in there. And all of a sudden you will have a front seat on that road because it's legal. That happened to me. I own on a gravel road up here, and a new owner beyond me said he wanted to build a subdivision. And sure enough, the right of way, they ended up having to cut down a whole row of trees on my property because the right of way actually fell. It was like a 12-foot road, and it was a 30-foot right of way, and he had that 30 feet cleared, and it was his right to do that. And I ended up with a bunch of firewood, but I mean, that could be in your future. That's the only reason why it would be so nice if there were a way to shift the right of way into the actual position of the physical road the way it is right now, because then they would eliminate that as ever being a chance that could happen.
I don't even think anybody knows where the right of way is on the other side.
But they can find out.
I think
At some
David
point.
Hughes knows.
Because
This is my thought, if I could just,
up the road, there's a stake 4 feet from the traveled way. That's up the road about 400 yards. Where it is there on, who knows? And I don't even, probably, a lot of that property hasn't really been surveyed.
Bruce, do you have a question or anything? Any comments?
Yeah, I live on a country road. It was dirt in the beginning. And I see your point. Everyone right now is assuming what's there is real, is the actual road. And part of my thinking was, what if we allowed this to happen, but with the idea of doing what you suggested, Art, to move in the future, to move the right of way, so that you don't run into the problem that you just brought up.
Yeah, make them line up right away on the road.
You know, I understand that point completely,
Yeah.
But, like I said before, you probably want to do like Waterboro does too, so this never happens again. And it's a very simple thing. I do it in Acton, Shapley, any place on a pond, foundation certification, and they can do it in just $500.
Yeah.
And it saves you this.
Yeah, sometimes these roads, they move just because of the mud. You try to find that solid spot, and over time, that road is moving to the right or the left, and everyone's assuming that's the road, and then my thought was, when you had the land, when you were looking over the land, I'm sure you walked it with a real estate agent, and they were pointing out, and they assumed the markers were correct.
I know from what my neighbors have told me, and I don't know if this is true, but whoever owns that road is not wanting it. And I know my neighbor Gil does want it because he has been investing money in it. Him and I have been building it up along with the other neighbors. We all contribute a share to improve it. And that was one of his concerns too, is what if the town says we have to do something that's gonna cost us more money? And I don't know what to do right now, but move back home, I guess.
If the right of way becomes the actual road, what does it do to her property?
Nothing.
If the right of way becomes the road, the actual right of way, what does it do to her property?
Makes it conforming.
Right.
The right of way,
It also
there
makes
is,
it larger.
No. If the right of way is there, what's the violation? That's not surmountable. I mean, okay, say the right of way becomes the road, right? Okay, is the septic field involved in that? Does it change anything?
no,
What does it do to her property?
no, the septic field is in the right of way.
It's in the right of way?
It isn't in the.
Oh, is not in the right of way. Okay.
Because if that is correct, 53 feet is 20 feet to the septic field 15 feet wide. It's long and narrow.
Okay,
Rather than
so-
the way.
Is anybody affected by that right of way becoming the actual road other than her?
Just CMP,
Oh, right, that's where they put their pole, right. They have
they'd have to move.
and
they'd
that
have to
pole
move
is
their poles
there.
and everything.
that pole is there.
I don't see the damage here. I don't see the damage.
Brenda?
The document that I just gave you, the first page is the list that I took from the tax records of all the people that are on Pond Road. The second and third page of the actual labels that I printed out onto the envelopes to send the notices. So, and Mr. Ferguson is directly across from her, and she knows there's label for that.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Who's across the road from her?
Mr. Ferguson.
The
Yeah.
Fergusons.
He does, yeah, he's,
We did get the certified letter card back from Mr. Ferguson. So he received the notification of this meeting.
Can I
Brenda?
just point out that this survey says it's not a boundary for survey, and it does mention that it is 53 plus or minus. So if you're not of the mind to approve a mislocation, then maybe we should get more specific data before you make a different decision.
For requirements for a variance, land in question cannot yield a reasonable return. You can't get title. That's pretty obvious.
That's
We got a problem there. So obviously you can't get a reasonable return. Need for a variance is due to the unique circumstances of the property, not the general condition of the neighborhood. It's definitely due to the unique circumstances of the property. So the general condition of the neighborhood isn't really much different. Granting of the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. Nope. I mean, if you've been down Bunganut Pond Road, you know that that's pretty standard, it's just a bunch of cabins out in the woods. And good-looking cabins at that, too, especially a new one. The hardship is not the result of action taken by the applicant or prior owner. That's, I think, the rub right there. We got to solve that one. Obviously not intentional.
No,
Nobody knows, this is all a big mistake.
I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid.
Brandon,
I don't mean to keep interrupting, but if on section D of the A and B does say that there was no willful or premeditated action on their part. So I think maybe that kind of puts the other into
Right.
perspective, maybe.
certainly didn't mean to put it closer than 75 feet to the road, at least to the right of way. It's not 75 feet closer to the road or anyway, but the right of way is the question. We've got the one suggestion, see if we can get the right of way moved to where the road actually is. That would kind of solve the problem in the long run. But that's somebody else's issue, not ours.
That probably is gonna be very tough to do.
Steve, why do you think so if you haven't even spoken to the abutter?
When something like that happens, people have dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
Would a variance be enough to satisfy Woodman, Edmonds, and the Maine Community Bank?
Yes. It will. I mean, unless I could actually buy the road, which is, would be in my wheelhouse maybe in a year or so, not at this moment. I will have a mark on my title, but it will not prevent it. It will still be marketable. But it's not perfectly clean, but it will still be marketable title.
Be non-conforming?
But I can get the mortgage, I can sell it to somebody else, when I want to retire. This is just not, it was never, ever meant to cause anybody angst. It was just a horrible mistake.
Somebody come up with a brilliant idea. You have any brilliant ideas?
My proposal would be that we continue this hearing,
Yeah.
that she goes and talks to her abutter, see if she can work something out with him. Talk to the person on the behind her on that road. See, perhaps have him come here and say he doesn't object, so that we know that that's the case. I don't care if she wants to get a letter from him, but I'd like to see something.
If it's a matter of objection of neighbors, they would be here right now.
You would think so.
So
They were notified,
we were
correct?
notified everybody, certified letter, they all responded. If they wanted to object, they would be here right now. So I'm not worried about objection of neighbors. I don't think it's a neighborhood problem. I think everybody in the neighborhood's fine with it. It's more, I think, the legal thing of what happens when somebody wants to expand the road and put it, all that other stuff. And the right of way is too close to the house right now. And the road isn't, but the right of way is. So that's the issue, I think.
Well,
now.
if the right of way becomes the road,
Yeah.
who's affected other than her?
Well, obviously the person whose property that road is on, because it's not where it's supposed to be, and that's,
Well, but that's
Mr.
not this issue.
well, I know, that's Mr. Whatchamacallit, Ferguson.
Ferguson, yeah. Well, Ferguson's got his problem because
He owns
somebody's
the road.
using his land for a road.
Well, exactly.
That's
He could
not
kick 'em
her
off,
problem.
though. He could
He
kick
could
them
kick them
off.
off.
Yes.
Just
Good.
like CMP can be forced to relocate their pole.
Yeah, They
Right.
misplaced their pole. They can be.
And so my question is, what damage is done if that right of way becomes the road?
There is no damage as far as I'm concerned, but the question then becomes, the hardship is not, caused, a result of action taken by the applicant or prior owner. So you go, okay, there is no hardship the way it is, the way I see it. But
So would it be possible, instead of, could it be done with an easement?
Of course it could.
Could that be just done with, get somebody to do, if he would agree, that way he's not losing his land per se, but there would be an easement only for that amount of land that is existing. Could he, I mean, it would be, I think he must have one anyways.
Well, that's all the right of way is an easement.
Right,
though.
right.
It's just a matter of speech here. I mean, basically, you want to just shift it towards his side of the road, which in the physical world
Just
it
wanna-
already is.
you just want the easement to
And I
match
don't,
up with the road that exists.
just for that, I don't want to have to reinvent that whole road.
You're not gonna
That's-
touch that
that's
road
what
at
I'm
all.
No,
afraid
only
of.
just that one little curve.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm thinking, because now it's opening up a can of worms and I don't want to get any of my neighbors upset, thinking like, now we've got to go and get all these new easements because this road is not conforming. And I don't want to be opening up that whole
Yeah.
Pandora's box, which is,
Even if the road was in the center of the easement, that would still leave, it would still leave 65 feet to our house. From
If
the
you-
road,
If you move the easement over to where the road is,
It should
but
go.
the road now is close to the opposite side of the easement.
well, so that's where we want that's where we want the easement to be then, wherever the road is.
but if he.
So that we get 75 feet, right?
But isn't there, I mean, I don't know how long the road has been there. Couldn't there be?
Adverse possession.
Yes, that's exactly what I didn't want to say. Yes.
Hey, where's Perry Mason? We'll give him a ring. Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of
No,
your
I know.
trouble
I'm
here,
just very
but
emotional about this.
It's
It's an emotional issue.
it gets easy if Mr. Ferguson would say, hey, it's that way already, why not? But it gets tough if you're gonna do battle for it.
If he gets gold dust in his eyes and goes, yeah, I guess got a chance here to make some money on this deal.
But even if the edge of the easement is actually 53 feet, which I don't think it is, that would still not infringe on her septic system or her house. And they could make the road wider and it still would be a problem. But,
My fear is that just all of a sudden bringing up where this road is on paper and where it actually is going to create,
but
A new
the
can of
problem
worms.
is one violation. We know that. And if we had a variance,
Yeah.
then she could get her loan. And I know you don't want to set a precedent, but normally easements are given only in hardship cases, I understand that. And not intentional hardships. And this was totally unintentional, and it's an extreme hardship for her.
One thing I'd like to make clear, at least I hope I'll make it clear, is seeking to change the location of the easement, which would have nothing to do with changing the location of the road, does not in and of itself change the road. The road will remain exactly where it is.
But suddenly and magically, there'll be 75 feet setback and everything will be conforming.
Assuming that the road is 75 feet
Right.
from the house, then yes, magically
Right.
it will be 75
Which
feet.
we're in the ballpark then anyway. If you move the,
22 feet.
yeah.
That radius of that curve.
Brenda, yes.
And I'm not an attorney, I'm going to defer to you on this, but the deed
No,
does,
please.
the deed does refer to that there is a plan, it's called Division of Land for Stephen Lafreniere on. The road was created as a result of that plan, which was recorded in York County in May 2010. So if it's a plan, I'm not sure how easily that can be
Right, changed on everybody's, on the deed.
I'm quite certain that that wouldn't be a problem because it precedes subdivision rules, which require that everybody in a subdivision agree to the change. You don't need that in pre-subdivision times. You would probably only need the agreement of the person on the other side of the easement, Mr. Ferguson. It'd be nice to know. Well, again, you, Linda, you have to hire an attorney
Yes.
after you spoke to Mr. Ferguson, if that's the route that you end up going. And that attorney would relatively easily be able to draft up a deed or an easement deed whereby I think what you really want is to have at least, well, you, thinking out loud, you may actually need the approval of the person behind you, because they would probably, those two people would probably have to agree to conveying you the land that is now part of the easement, so that you would be getting an additional, whatever, 20.
She doesn't have to own it. She just has to be 75 feet from the easement. She doesn't have to own the land.
Well,
Well,
technically, she does.
We'll end up,
That's
okay.
what this
We'll
is
end up
all
owning
coming
that
to. That's
22
what this is
feet.
coming to.
Nobody's gonna
So she's
build on
really
that 22
purchasing-
feet in there.
purchasing or begging 22 feet from the guy across the street.
And that's assuming that, I don't know how much land that relates to. I mean, supposing
Cipher.
he has exactly 5 acres and he can't give up an inch. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to think
There
about.
could be more.
I mean, 22 feet for a span, I think would add up.
So let's say we grant a variance, all right? The road doesn't move. I mean, well, it could, the road could move, you know,
Probably, but only to the detriment.
only to the detriment. If anything, it's gonna get closer because that's where it is on paper. They're not gonna go the other direction. with the
But it
road.
won't hit the septic.
It won't hit the septic. I mean, it's still got reasonable clearance on septic. We're granting a variance anyway for less than 75, so you've got less, down to 53 or whatever it really is. What is the harm in granting the variance? What is the harm?
Moral hazard. No.
I mean, obviously, if this was a plot, you know, to get the house closer to the, then that would be bad and we wouldn't go for that. But that obviously is not the case here. I think we could reasonably say, I mean, that, I'm gonna have troubles writing this up, going, the hardship is not the result of the action taken by the applicant. I gotta figure out how
This
to.
one here, there was
Well,
no
yeah,
will for
no, I can certainly
premeditation.
add that in there. There was no will for, that would certainly help. I mean, it's.
What are you referring to?
This one here.
I'm wondering if those, is it 4 or 5? I never remember. uh,
4.
Points that 4. If that doesn't pertain to a mislocation, because a mislocation seems to come up with its own criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not construction and it's not premeditated. So I'm wondering if the 4 even apply to that particular type of appeal, where it is set aside as a different process.
Well, I think your interpretation of not due to new construction is kind of interesting too, but.
Well, the thing is, at this moment,
It's not new,
It's
I
not
know,
new
but-
now, it's
I know,
already there.
I know, and it's not like
She's got a
you're sitting here you're sitting here with planning this and you're planning new construction. I understand the difference, but still. Any
Yeah,
thoughts along that line?
At one point, does it become not new construction anymore, I guess? Certificate of occupancy, I guess, maybe.
I suppose at that point, it's not new now.
It's there now, for sure.
If this had been discovered before I wrote the CO, I wouldn't have written the CO. So the fact that there is one in place now and we all really thought we were doing the right thing.
Right.
And
And I had no idea. I had no idea.
So I'm surprised the
Never,
bank
ever.
could get a surveyor and get out there and get this done in such, surprised they didn't just take what there was.
No, this is common. Banks for a first mortgage almost always, especially for new construction, require a mortgage inspection to get the title insurance necessary to protect them should this come up after the fact.
and banks these days are taking no risk whatsoever. They call my office.
I wonder why that is. Yeah, okay.
There it is then.
Any other thoughts or ideas?
I'm good.
As far as where's my thing here? Yeah. Presentations by abutters. Well, let's see, we don't have any abutters here, unless somebody wants to call in. Comments or questions by other interested people? Once everyone has had an opportunity to be heard to the extent allowed by the board's procedures, the chair will close the public comment portion of the hearing. At this time, the board will deliberate, and if more time is needed, the board may vote to continue the hearing to a later date. Do I hear a motion to close the public comment portion of the meeting?
Motion. Closed
Second.
public meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so at this time, the board will deliberate. Have we deliberated?
Mm-hmm.
Are you deliberated? Deliberated, let me think.
Unless you have something new.
All right, let's go ahead and take a vote then on whether we think that our applicant has satisfactorily answered the 4 questions to require a variance. All those in favor of granting a variance for the 109 Bunganut Pond Road, say
Aye.
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 And all those opposed?
Aye.
All right, then the variance will pass at 4-1, and it's a tough situation, but hopefully we don't get this done again. Contractor. All right,
No, I really appreciate it. I think
yeah.
you guys are really fair. And
Yeah, it's a shame that it happened, and like I say, it's, I can certainly see how it did happen. It's just one of those things that maybe, we can all do a little better and go, okay, let's be a little more careful here somehow. Let's get a surveyor here and really get this thing plotted out. That's all right, to go. Anyway, enjoy your new camp.
Sorry, I got emotional.
It's all right.
It's a woman thing.
No, it's all right. Very good. Meeting's adjourned, and I'll get together with Julia and talk about writing this thing. If you guys can all pass your notes in this.
I actually.
You didn't take any notes this time? Okay,
Just
you
wrote
wrote
a lot of quick